Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the HANA virtual events. Thank you all for coming today. Today we're going to have some really great information to share with you. Today's session we'll be finding our path to inspiration through the El Paso Children's Garden, which will be presented by Ms. Denise Knight. Before I hand it over to our presenter, I would like to mention a couple of things. This session will be recorded, so you can come back to it later, and those who have missed out on today's events will be able to come back and watch it. Also, this event will provide the HANA Passport points. So we will post the code at the end of the session in the chat. If you have any questions about getting your Tejano points, if you can't get in or anything like that, please let us know at the end of the session, and we will be happy to answer any of your questions. So now at this time, please mute your mic so we can get the best sound experience, get comfortable, and I'm going to hand it over to our presenter, Ms. Knight. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you to Tejano Events, and thank you all for taking just a little bit of your time on a Friday afternoon to share with me to hear about this project. This is called El Paso Children's Garden, and it's a path to inspiration. If you want, in case you're not with us the whole time, my email and name is right there in case you want to follow up and in case you don't get to finish it. This is our dedication. We are dedicated to the child in each of us that delights in the beauty of nature. And we truly believe that there's a part of each of us that feels that kind of wonder when you take a pause. This is we're a 501c3, and anyone that's involved in charities out in the community knows that you kind of live and die by these. So we are literally organized for the purpose of creating a public botanic garden to inspire deeper connection to nature, engender commitment to conserve and protect our natural resources, and foster a greater understanding of the interdependence of plants and people through research, education, and hands-on experience, which I think you'll see as we move along on this. Botanic gardens are botanic gardens because they safeguard, select, and maintain living plant collections for conservation, research, education, engagement, and enjoyment. We are located, and this is a project that is underway. You'll see as we go through this. This will be located at Vinton and Bosque Road. It's in technically Canutillo, and highly accessible, 1.6 miles from I-10, very picturesque with a view of the mountains. This is what the raw land looks like, and this is what it will look like with our project, when it fills it up. So the design of the garden is a 7-path labyrinth. I don't know if any of you guys have had any experience with labyrinths, but they're sort of symbolic for thousands of years of a journey to the center of the soul. For us, they provide a great opportunity to demonstrate a lot of different planting patterns and create a journey for you, really. So you enter on the red path, you follow through as you follow the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and pink, and each path is planted in a dominant seasonal color. So this is what the labyrinth would look like planted, with a parking area in front. It has administrative offices, ticketing, cafe, gift shop, education hall, IT and security, parking, maintenance in the front, grow houses, research in the rear. We're at schematic, so there you have a more schematic version of that. It is 60 acres. The garden itself is about 38 or so, and about 8 acres of parking in front, and then grow houses and research in the rear. If you think of the labyrinth, this is a walled garden. So there's approximately 12-foot walls on either side of a 75-foot area, 30-foot beds on either side, a 15-foot walkway. And so this gives us the opportunity to create some very intimate kind of settings, much like many of you could emulate in space that you have available. There's 4 distinct planting styles on each path: contemporary woods, cottage garden, and grassland. Woodland areas are something that in El Paso, we kind of, depending on what part of town you live in, a lot of people, when you're on the west side, you may notice that there's a completely different planting style visually there. A lot of these trees were probably, 60, 70 years old. And so they've been planted to emulate a woodland setting. That's not a planting style that you see a lot in other parts of town. They just tend to have gotten away from that, but it is available, and you'll see this in the garden. Grassland areas all of these areas are important because they're little mini wildlife sanctuaries. There are some native grasses in El Paso that are absolutely beautiful, available to us, that people know absolutely nothing about. And so we'll spend some more time on that. There's a grassland area on each path. 7 paths, 4 styles, plus 4 corners, which we'll demonstrate is 32 gardens. They each have a unique theme. And I think I went past there. 65% of the garden demonstrates sort of natural plantings, much like you might come upon or find in a natural setting. 70% of all plants planted for cultivation in the garden are native plants. And then we've done something a little different with this space. I don't know if any of you hope you do. You don't have to be a gardener to enjoy a botanic garden, but many people, when they travel, visit gardens. 1 out of every 3 world travelers visits a garden, and so it creates a little different kind of opportunity here. We've added some little houses, one on each path. They each have a unique theme. Now, these are not overnights. They are available for corporate events, organizations, family occasions, and 5 go up to 100 capacity, 2 up to 200, 1 up to 300. We're going to celebrate rock masons and our indigenous stone, which we have some really beautiful examples of as you roam through the community. Celebrate mosaic arts and artists and some very special usage, and ironworkers and metal arts, which is another natural part of what we experience here. If you're walking the garden, you enter on the red path, and those arrows kind of take you in the direction, because labyrinths are sort of right brain, left brain experiences. You start one direction and then it turns back, it sort of coils in on itself. The red path has 4 gardens, as each path does: terrace garden, grove, la vita, and the meadow. Terrace garden is a tiered garden, much as it suggests, in different ribbons of color at the entrance. So this is sort of a promenade in that first gathering point for people as they meet up with family or friends. We already have people that want to do fashion shows there. Think of a Dia de los Muertos parades and that kind of thing. And here's the actual schematic for that area. Terrace garden then is reddish bearing fruits, reddish nuts, reddish foliage, as is the grove. And so there we're able to use a lot of different, everything from apples to pomegranates to plums to pears, a lot of different things that do grow here. This is sort of the pattern that we're trying to emulate for the grove, and there you see the actual design for that. There's also underplantings, which we get to demonstrate, teach people about how to grow fruit trees in El Paso. The special feature in El Paso, the special feature the grove is a bendable tree. Not that hard to do. It's grown over a frame, trained slowly. And if you've ever been to Don Haskins, which I know many of you have, if you think about it out front, there's a bendable tree that's sort of woven together out front there. So we look forward to providing that as a unique, beautiful experience. There is a rendering of the grove area. Next is La Vita. La Vita is the only formally planted garden in all of the 32 gardens. So think Tuscany, Old Mexico, Spain, Santa Barbara, a lot of different areas where you have raised beds and very distinct planting styles. Cypress trees, Italian stone pines. This is where there is a villa, and this is the design for the villa that holds up to 200, so great wedding spot or for corporate parties, family occasions, that kind of thing. Little promenade out front, and this is where we, first demonstration where we'll pair with local growers. So there is really a very rich community of local growers around us here. We don't see that quite as much depending on what circles you move in. If you're in the Northwest, it's really obvious at every turn what kind of growers you have available at all the markets. And this is our, we're pairing up with La Viña. You often see a little vineyard in estate-like settings, and so they're going to give us a demonstration of how to grow grapes. And obviously they're experts on that. We're happy to have them there. There you have your overall look of La Vita with the formal gardens and the estate itself, and then the vineyard. There's a little rendering of that. You can kind of see how you can roam through even if an event's going on. The meadow is the next one, and this is very whimsical, very curvy road that you enter on, horse topiaries in the meadow, a little walled city with a moated flower moat as you enter. Instead of a moat of water, it's a moat of native flowers. This is a 17-foot dragonfly, which we've already have in our possession from Julio Sanchez de Alba. And he is a native sculptor here in El Paso, and so that will be up on the wall there. A little, very, enchanting kind of feel as you enter. Inside, it's like a continuous Renaissance fair. You've got a maypole, you've got the big checkerboard and chessboard. You've got a child's labyrinth that they can walk safely on their own, with thrones, and so a lot going on there for birthday parties and other occasions. As you leave the wall city, a little human sundial, and that's when you come up on Goat Hill. Everybody loves to watch the goats, and so they're very playful. They will climb on anything, and we're going to give you lots of opportunities to sit and watch them do their thing. Little miniature village as you leave, and then there is the diagram for the meadow. Now you're on the orange path. Now you're coming back the other direction. Cactus Garden Wilderness, Three Sisters in the Field. Cactus Garden is just what it says. Really fine specimen demonstration of a number of items that you see frequently here in El Paso. And we want this to be a really picturesque kind of area, a little more contemporary use, and use of red walls to sort of create that contrast against that cactus blue agave and the different structures of cactus that are very abstract looking. Very traditional old hacienda, bancos, beams, terrazzo floor. And across from the little hacienda that holds 100 is Our Lady of the Guadalupe Grotto. And Gaspar Enriquez has donated his services to help create that. And so we're very honored to have his involvement there. On the other end of the garden, a lot of negative space that creates ways to kind of showcase these wonderful shapes, and a little seated three-sided area with a cactus roof, which you don't see here as much as you do maybe in the interior, and they're kind of delightful looking. There's your drawing of the cactus garden and of the little house, and next you're to the wilderness. Hopefully some of you have had the opportunity to go to the Gila Wilderness nearby here. So this is patterned after something that's brushier, scrappier, much like the Gila. And you've got an old miner shack, celebrate some of that history that we're all part of. And you begin to see the animal prints as you go through, and then you come upon the giant tarantula. Here's a rendering of you has to pass through the legs of the giant tarantula to get to the other side, where the sort of free play area is, with some more natural kind of demonstration of that in a little playground for the kids. Next, you come upon some bird education, giant bird's nest, giant eggshell, and how big am I? Kids always love that, where they can see what bird they kind of compare to. And then seasonal plant TPs, Fruits of the Forest Mud Kitchen. There's some 6-foot red ants, also by Julio Sanchez de Alba, to create a little ant bed there. And then these are the rentable dwellings in the wilderness. Once again, not for overnights. You can rent one, rent all. We'll have some packages put together for whatever kind of occasion you're trying to make happen there, engagements, family dinner, whatever it might be. And then there's your diagram of a wilderness. These rougher, kind of more natural areas don't demonstrate real well in the rendering, but they're very necessary to execute what we're doing. Three Sisters, you enter through a seasonal squash tunnel and other plants other times of the year. This is a completely edible garden. It's a very large garden. And so this is where a lot of volunteer time and a lot of lessons take place on teaching people how to grow food. It's a 4-season garden, so lots of opportunities year round, a little head house for the volunteers, very whimsical kind of feel. And the Three Sisters, a lot of you probably know, were squash beans and corn. Some of the first plants planted by many Indian, including the members. And so they each serve a purpose. You know, the corn stalks provide a base for the vines to climb. The very prickly kind of squash leaves repel some insects. The beans return nitrogen to the soil. And those are examples of companion plants which can be used in many areas in the garden. There's a little chicken run and chicken coop, so you can watch the chickens as well. And then we are working to have the largest observational beehive in the U.S. That's one of our goals. The one that you see there on the far right is in New Zealand. It's done in a 360 manner where you can kind of walk all the way around it and observe them. You can't talk enough about bees in our environment today. We're losing bee colonies very rapidly in the U.S. for a variety of reasons, not just climate. And so this is something that we will really dedicate a lot to. There are many pollinators, but bees are obviously one of the most important. There's your rendering of entering the Three Sisters garden. And there is the actual design. Now this is, as I mentioned, it's large. You're talking about over 5,000 square feet cultivated, and so approximately 5,000 pounds of food a year. It's a complicated planting plan from a 4-seasons standpoint, but this is the kind of stuff we love, and so we can hardly wait to literally get our hands dirty. Next is the field. We have our orange poppies here in El Paso, and this is a grassland area. You enter through 10-foot tall bunny sentries at entrance and exit, sort of standing guard there, and you've got a giant bunny topiary, and then there's about 100 bunnies hidden in this grassland area for a daily scavenger hunt. And so there's lots of ways to make people crazy with that. How many did you get, Bobby? 96. Nope, go back, start over. So fall pumpkin field there. Some parts of the season, when poppies aren't in season, we'll be growing pumpkins and that kind of thing. There's your diagram for the field, very natural area. At the end of the orange path, where the field is, in the beginning of the yellow path, there is a butterfly house that has been sponsored and made possible through the Shylock Family Foundation. This is a separately ticketed exhibit, and there's your, if you've been in a butterfly house, I think adults love them just as much as kids. They're flying around you, landing on you, and it's a great way to remind people of just the natural beauty that you can't get enough of. Many of us are fascinated with butterflies. I know my mother was, and also to talk about propagators, and there's a great demonstration in that. This is something that we want people to understand, that 1 out of every 3 bites of food depends on a pollinator. A lot of people have sort of gotten away from that understanding, and that it's not just things that are beautiful like bees and butterflies, but it's actually beetles, wasps, even bats are pollinators. So we have a lot to share and a lot to educate people about there. And you get to see an emergence chamber and a viewing window, so you get to watch the full metamorphosis and different kids. We've already spoken with a number of different school districts, and obviously this is an area where they're really interested. There's a number of areas in the garden, but this one is an easy one for them to want their kids to be part of. Now we enter the yellow path, and that's some of the largest gardens on the outside there. Sculpture Garden, Enchanted Forest, Mimi's Maze, and the Prairie. Now on each one of these, on the corner there's a separate area, which I'll cover as I go through this. So the Sculpture Garden is a unique use of a number of different functions to be able to really give you a very artful understanding of plants. We have a number of sculptures already donated, and it's the only place in the garden where art holds just as much importance as the plants. So very more sculptural use of plants and some sculptural use of art. Also, some can be just done in the way things are pruned. And so there's a separate skill around that. And rock sculptures, we all enjoy that. Bubble sculptures, glass and iron sculptures, and car sculptures. There's our diagram for the Sculpture Garden. On the outside of the Sculpture Garden, there's an area called Sweetgrass. And this is a more contemporary use. Martina Laurie has donated her architectural services. She's a well-recognized female architect here in El Paso to design a little house that holds up to 300, not so little house, we kind of have to call it, and more contemporary use of native grasses and plants here. So really some ways to kind of show them off in a different way than you see, and they really kind of beg for that. They're very beautiful. You can see how it flows from the Sculpture Garden to Sweetgrass. So you can be walking around with your cocktail glass or with your a cup of soda and be able to wind back and forth between the Sculpture Garden and Sweetgrass. This is the two combined, and now you are in the Enchanted Forest. The Enchanted Forest is an opportunity to show a very kind of natural setting, but we're going to have a few things that are interesting for you here. The hedgehog, the enchanted doorway, floating rocks, and you've got a number of different ways to be able to kind of surprise people and to keep them kind of moving along about every 30, 40 feet with a new item. This is also the giant raven, raven's nest, giant caterpillar, giant mushrooms, and then the great white wolf we're also working with Julio Sanchez de Alba on. As you leave the Enchanted Forest, there's a couple of ways to wander back and forth from the Enchanted Forest to that corner, which is called the Enchanted Playground. And the Enchanted Playground is a more, indigenous use of playhouses. It recognizes sort of indigenous architecture from around the world, not just here. And but we do have some giant albrijas, think 8 foot tall or so. Pick the ones that are a little less prickly and a little less fragile to be able to let kids have some fun with those. And there is, all of our playgrounds are all abilities, and this is something that we consider very important. I retired from UMC Foundation and El Paso Children's Foundation in 2019. I started those foundations from scratch and did the community campaign for the Children's Hospital, and I'm very conscious of special needs and what that means to a family. If it's not a good surface, you might be able to get a child in a wheelchair out there, or an adult. But if it's a tough service for the caregiver to be able to get that wheelchair over, it's almost impossible. So we're very conscious of those things as we design these. And there is your Enchanted Playground and the two combined. Next, you're in Mimi's Secret Garden, and you see this is not a rentable little house. It's a facade of Grandma's house, and you see her little garden, her giant kitty cats, and then you see the giant keyhole. On the other side of the giant keyhole is Mimi's Secret Garden maze, and there are life-size animals hidden in there. It's gamed so that with an armband, people can, or children can hold up their armband and register that they found each one of these, and whether they found them all when they leave. If they find them all when they leave, they get a little prize. This is what the actual labyrinth looks like. Sorry, maze. And it's not just hedges, okay, but different use of plant hotels and that kind of thing, and architectural elements to be able to create some of those, that maze structure. There's your overview of it. In the middle, there's two different sections, so you can just enter and do one part and then exit out to the adjunct area, or you can sit for a little bit in the raised flower in the middle there. That's an architectural design that goes up about 3 or 4 levels, and then you can go finish the maze on the other side. We know that these things are popular and they're fun, and there's lots of ways to utilize them as a team sport. Yeah, there's the overview of the maze. Now you leave the secret garden maze and you go to the secret playground. Secret playground is like a little village. There's a path that goes all the way around it. So think of an old downtown with the different shops. There's a little school there that is donated in honor of Cece from First Presbyterian, who was there for 30 years, and this has been named after her. And then there's little shops, and then there's little houses to be able to show the different ways that kids can come in here and have fun and birthday heaven, if you will. In the middle, there's some great outdoor musical instruments now that really do handle the weather, and so those will be in the middle of that large play area. There you have your diagram for the secret playground. And there are the two combined, how you can kind of go back and forth. Next is the prairie grassland area, and the most common color flower is yellow. There's many more to choose from as you in that area, and this is where, if you have a prairie, you've got to have a little house on the prairie. Very traditional architecture on the outside, and that up to 100. This is the bridal suite where they can change a separate party. You see the there. This is a little prairie playground with some unique elements, and you always want to have a place where kids can safely sort of pause for a moment, a family can have a moment. This is a 12-foot tall dog topiary. It's done with Mexican feathergrass, which is one of those grasses that grows very well here, and we're dying to do that. And then you've never been to one of these old ranches where there's not a rusted vehicle or an old vehicle sitting out there. Well, we're going to find some special ones and plant them for that unique effect. There is your prairie diagram. And now off the prairie is something called the Prairie Theater. So this is an outdoor area for mixed use. It can be used for music. It can be used for, ceremonies. It can be used for yoga, a variety of different things. In the back, there is an area that we're doing these other small cottages, not as small as you see there, but that will go sort of 6, 8, 12, 16. And those are available for, think of that as our skybox, if you will, where you can rent them for a separate party. And so this is a demonstration of what that would look like out there on movie night, which is always a fun thing. There is the large area that you see there. And then the combined Prairie House and the Prairie Theater, which holds some great corporate party opportunities. Now we're on the green path. Now we're moving towards the middle of the labyrinth, and you've got the rockery, the woods, hedgerows, and the green. The rockery is just what it says, a more natural kind of use, displaying, we'll have an old ruin that people can sort of scramble through and explore. And then lots of fossils where we remind people where fossils came from, and lots of, get you into some of the geology and some of the archaeology and some of the things we can do there. There's a tunnel. It's lit well. It's not scary. But this is where we're going to emulate some of the more important sort of petroglyphs and wall paintings around the world. We're going to give kids an opportunity to do their own with a chalk bag and their hand. So they've done their own painting. And so this is the beginning of storytelling through art. We'll also have a little dino dig for kids to be able to pause and demonstrate some of the petroglyphs that are out at the on the other side of town, and tell them how to get out there and the climbs. Rockery, also walking with dinosaurs, all the fun pictures with dinosaurs, and then the iconic rocks that we just all can't resist. We all love. This is where we'll have Dinosaur Day. A lot of us come from an event background, so we can hardly wait to be at the point where we can do anything. You have to wear your dino suit to get in. Everybody's very clumsy and kind of knocking around. It's a lot of fun. There's our diagram of the rockery, and the woods is just what it says. It's a wooded areas with a little rock bridge and a log cabin. and this is something that will be unique here. This holds up to 100. You can also have an outdoor area for whatever kind of event you want to hold there, and be done up any number of ways depending on the time of year. And there's a party going on outdoor in the woods. This is the diagram there, and now we're on hedgerows. We have our rock walls here in El Paso, but for thousands of years, it was hedgerows that defined property lines, kept the livestock in, provided a windbreak. And so we want to show people how to lay a hedge. And you can do that any number of ways with any number of things that grow here. There's a number of things that grow here that lend themselves to that. So it's not just one plant, it's a variety of plants. And once again, this is a little mini wildlife corridor, which is a good thing. And there is your hedgerows with seating in between. There's a lot of areas like this that you visit that you can walk a long way before you ever find a chance to just stop and enjoy a moment of reverie. There isn't a lot of seating. We've really committed ourselves to giving people a place to pause and take a look at this and just enjoy nature. There's your diagram for the hedgerows. And next we're on the green. So this is where you see a couple little hobbit houses, and you see the giant sleeping giant. And then you've got, this is very tunnels and little areas in very, obviously a very hobbit-like environment. And then we're on the blue path. Now, these are some of the smallest gardens on the blue path: the water garden, the stand, Frida's garden, and the wind garden. Water garden, this is just what it says. You see some flowing water, and we've done this where there would be the opportunity for a child to, with something that we would have available in the gift shop, a small boat or something that they could drop in and watch it follow their little boat on the water as it goes underneath some of these bridges and back out, and then pick it up again at the end, which we think will be a great exercise. A lot of kids in El Paso have never seen a natural trickle of water. And so to kind of fall in love with the beauty of that, if it's kind of hard if you don't connect with it to think of it as something you want to protect. We protect what we love. So we're going to help them fall in love with water. Next is the stand, simple, elegant stand of trees. And the special feature here is the walls, where you can leave your note, have your loved one write something and stick it in the wall. This is what that looks like. Seated areas on that oval area there. We call it the wall of hopes and dreams. And that is tinted a little blue in the process of that, so you get a feel for what that would look like. Next is Frida's Casa Azulita, and Root Architecture is working with us on that. Mostly, this is a smaller area, so this little house patterned after Frida's house holds up to 100, and a little smaller courtyard across the way. There is giant retablos and an area of seating there for people to sort of a nice little Instagram moment. And there you see a little house, retablos across the way. Next is the wind garden. This is a very small garden. And so here we just want to emulate things that remind you of the wind in the opportunity that we have in that small garden. Next we go to Celestial Garden, Big Thicket Sanctuary in the Steppe. We're on the purple path. Celestial Garden, a little different use of some of our plants, pruned a little differently. Now, our native plant people really love their native sage and their lavender, leucophila, just completely wild. But we're going to take one opportunity here to show some of the other structures that can be done with it. Giant alliums, and this is home of the literacy program. So there's a couple of book nooks. There's a little library and an outdoor reading circle, which holds great opportunities for some book clubs to meet, school organizations to begin or end their tours. And there's your diagram of the Celestial Garden. Next is the Big Thicket. You have to go through the Tunnel of Love to get to the Big Thicket, and you steal your kiss out in the bushy woods and trees. There's lots of hidden elements as you turn each corner, kind of little hidden hints of romance as you walk through. And there is your diagram, your schematic for the Big Thicket. And the Big Thicket is actually a different use of plants and the way they're combined and the way they're planted. The Big Thicket is a whole area of Texas in another area there. And so it's another demonstration of another use of plants. Sanctuary, just what it says. There is a little lusher foliage look, and this is where the Little Rock Chapel is. Chad North is working with us on that. This will hold up to 100, also an outdoor space for outdoor wedding if you want to do that. And this is where we're pairing with the Florin family, who have the lavender fields and the Flores Farms. They fell in love with lavender a long time ago. He did, and now they have a lot of products and a lot of different ways that they utilize them. And lavender is one of those things that really lends itself to that. So we're excited to be able to help them share their knowledge with you all. There is a schematic of the sanctuary with the little house as well as the outdoor area. And next is the steppe. Steppe is a native grass area with purple blooming plants, and that's where you find the wind phone. And you may have read about these. It's an unconnected phone booth with an attached handset, and it's a Japanese idea. So you enter and you have a one-way conversation with someone you've lost or someone you need closure with, and your words are carried into the wind. Very therapeutic. We've made room for 3 of them, including one that is wheelchair accessible. There is, next we're on the pink path. This is the last path: Zen Garden, Heath, Cottage Garden, and the clearing. Zen Garden, just, some rocks with holes, begs the question, what are you filling? We show you the way through. You hit the wall, and then you see the sign that says this way, and you have to choose which way you go and find that it takes you to the same place, no matter what you do. And it's just a choice, a part of the journey. We actually were very excited to find that we have a bonsai specialist here in El Paso. His name is Brian Kanoff. A lot of us knew him for his photography. And so he is offered to curate and nurture one of these bonsais, larger than typical bonsai, which would be a feature in that garden. There's your design there. Heath, you've got rock thrones all along the walkway. We don't have heather here, but we have a lot of heather-like plants. Really mix those up and fill that up along the walkway. And this is where our rock masons really get to kind of kick in and demonstrate how much the variety of what can be accomplished and all the great feel you get from that. So rock thrones along the walkway, and that's where you really got a lusher look. Cottage garden. I think cottage garden is the garden that we all kind of secretly think of when we think of rose arbors and big mixed beds, and that is what you have here. Comfort Keepers Cottage is sponsored by Comfort Keepers, and they are the donor that's making that possible. We're very grateful to them, but it's a very typical kind of old cottage, a little dovecote. And this is where the outdoor tea parties are in the garden. So they can be outdoor, they can be indoor, and it's, for any age groups with a number of themes to be able to celebrate different times in life and different occasions. This is where just an example of the variety of cottage flowers that grow here, and how much we can really create an enchanting kind of atmosphere there. Blue Jay Iris Farm is in Vado. If you didn't know we had an iris farm, I'm not sure how much longer she's going to be here. She's out of Albuquerque, and she may be combining these, but she's donating a couple of thousand bulbs to us, which we have to nurture in the meantime. But it's a glorious place, and obviously irises are one of the most enchanting kind of flowers and very unusual. There is your diagram for tea party inside and out, dinner inside, wedding outside, or just a corporate occasion. Last garden is the clearing. It's an all-white garden. And these are, if you've never seen one, there is something very unusual about an all-white garden. And there's some very famous gardeners, Vita Sackville West and people like that have, over the decades, demonstrated this. And so it's got a very nice feel as you walk through. And there's also a banco. This is another one like at the entrance in the terrace garden where there's a place to pause and meet back up with your family or join up as you're leaving. As you come to the middle, as you exit the white path, you're at what we call the center of the garden, and the center of the garden will hold up to 2,000 people in conference seating, and 1,000 at 60-inch rounds, about 120 10 by 10 booths. So this is a full stage, sound and lights. It's enclosed, and this is a little rendering of what that would look like. You see the recessed lighting on the wall. Now with digital, you can make those change colors to suit somebody's theme or corporate theme if that's important to them. And there's a full diagram with all the bathrooms and everything else that's required to be able to do something like this. So we're super excited about having that. We've already had some inquiries about graduations and weddings and that kind of thing. Obviously, you've got all these people here, you got to feed them. So Leaf Cafe, banquet services, and then also demonstration kitchen from farm to table, where people can learn how to cook and learn how to cook some of those fresh vegetables that they've just been able to bring in from Three Sisters Garden, and we're going to show them how to do that. This is what everything we just went through looks like when it was fully designed. And let's talk about the appeal of botanic gardens. Literally, I mentioned before, 1 out of every 3 world travelers visits a garden. That's about 121 million people in the U.S. every year. They plan for those stops. The target market is still heavier women, 45 plus, a lot of male gardeners, and there's a very much growing millennial and Gen X market, because I think they feel like they got cheated a little bit out of nature, and they really, want to take conservation seriously. Our closest gardens here, we've got Keystone out on Doniphan. A lot of people put a lot of good energy into that. Very strong desert garden. And then you go north, you've got Chihuahua Desert Garden at UTEP, and then El Paso Municipal Rose Garden. Albuquerque Biopark, about 300 miles away in Santa Fe. And then you go west about 400 miles, Phoenix and Tucson. And then you go 600 miles east, Fort Worth and Dallas. Obviously, everybody knows Texas is spread out enough where that little gap in between, where something like this is a really unique stop when people are ready for a break, and we feel like the impact of that is going to be quite substantial. There's about 300,000 households in El Paso, another 85,000 in Las Cruces, and in the 300-mile MSA, there's about 1.7 million households to market to. That does not include Mexico. It's hard to put a firm number on that, but you and I both know it'll be 25 to 30% of our market, and we will market to them. We're right near that state line, and so about 15.6 million cars a year over that line, and only 1.6 miles away, so easy to gather them up. We're serious about what we're doing, and so we want to be a commitment to excellence by example. These are from the American Public Garden Association. These are benchmarking standards, as all benchmarks are. They're mind-numbingly detailed. Nobody really does them all. You kind of pick your pockets and then develop your expertise, and so that's our plan there. Botanic gardens, as I mentioned, select and maintain living plant collections. So conservation research, education, engagement, and enjoyment. Conservation, help preserve native plant species and help educate people about native plants and how to use them, and how that affects biodiversity, which is still a word that people have kind of a arm's length with. Many creatures depend on insects for food. Over half of all insects rely on plants for food. As plants disappear, habitats disappear. As habitats disappear, creatures disappear. That's just one example of biodiversity. And so educating people about all of this, we don't have nearly the invasive plant problem that some parts of the United States does, but we do have our salt cedar, that pink frothy stuff you see there. If I say salt cedar on the west side, people nod their heads. It'll just take over an irrigation ditch and cut off a waterway. The other one to the right there is tree of heaven. You find that all over El Paso. Kind of a pretty tree, kind of resembles a pistache family, but highly invasive. Plants are selected by hardiness zone if you're not a gardener, and they just modified the hardiness zone because we have gotten about 1.5 degrees hotter. So it doesn't affect us a whole lot, but it affects us some, longer days, longer summers. And so plants are selected by that and are at rainfall of about 9 inches a year. We've trained people when they think of native plants to think of xeriscaping. Now, often when they think of xeriscaping, they're thinking in El Paso of that upper right corner there that is jokingly referred to by many as xeroscaping. There's actually a couple of thousand native and adapted plants and cultivars that will flourish here in our climate zone. They're flowering, they're fragrant, they're drought tolerant. You're just not going to find them in big box stores, and a lot of what you find there isn't suitable for our region. So we have a lot of education to do and a lot of demonstration to do. 70% of all plants planted for cultivation in the garden are native plants. We have a commitment to sustainability across the management of the garden, what tools we use, what fuel we use, a commitment to plant conservation. There are some species, even in our region, that are near extinction, working to preserve those. Commitment to restoration gardening, and that's where we want to help people understand that if everybody in El Paso that had any land available to them at all planted something the size of an office desk, which is the new measure by which we can all relate, with native tree or native plants, it would measurably change our ecosystem. And we're actually speaking with a professor at UTEP and working on that to be able to make that a community initiative that we drive. And it's sort of the Johnny Appleseed effect, if you will. Obviously, water conservation is a must-have. We have some of that is in the design, some of it's in how the soil is used to be able to use water effectively. And then we are also going to recycle our black water and gray water. And it appears from all systems that we're going to be using that we can recycle as much as 30% of our water and reuse it. Most gardens have some research projects that are plant-based that go along with what they do, and we feel it's important to be part of that and tie in with our educational partners here in El Paso. Texas A&M obviously has done a lot in that area. Garisha Ganjagupta here locally is the salinity, the increasing salinity of our water guy, and he's researching what cash crops will survive this. Could be a little hard on pecans. Cotton will be fine, but the cash crop of the future is probably quinoa, and so there's some things to think about. Yvonne Santiago, Camila Madera at UTEP, they are interested in measuring nutrient uptake. Peju is somebody that we visited with, but it depends on what kind of system we go with in terms of monitoring of our recycled water. And then education. Botanic gardens are the absolute leaders in horticulture education in the United States. And I will tell you from working information booths, I've been a master gardener for the last 2 years. Time has made it difficult to qualify for my hours this year, so we'll see. I will recertify if necessary. But it's the kind of thing you learn that nearly everybody would like to learn how to grow something. And a lot of people, they've tried and some died and that's it, it's over. It's just really not that. Gardening is a learning process like everything else, and it can be done here, and it can be done beautifully, and it can be done very productively. And so we're anxious to really show people how to get the kind of results they're looking for from this and how to be successful with it. Plant-focused learning is something that is kind of coming of day because a lot of people have forgotten, a lot of this. They're a generation or two removed from anybody in their family that actually grew things for their family to eat, and they've now forgotten a lot of the basic lessons that come with it. There's something now called nature deficit disorder. It's documented, it's there, the books are written, the studies are done, and it's absolutely proven that greenness supports a child's cognitive development. Something we all knew to begin with. And so basically botanic gardens reconnect us to nature, where food, medicine, and shelter all come from. And I think it's safe to say that people have forgotten that as well. If we found that if we can get to them before age 11, it's particularly powerful in shaping their attitudes as adults. And so we have already been working for 9 months or so on our curriculum and have met with a number of the schools involving Texas education standards, STEM, STEAM, next generation science standards, and we're already developing our curriculum. Laura Venegas is the person that's spearheading that for us. She's been a lead curriculum specialist for, I think, a career curriculum specialist. And we want, at the end of every lesson, for them to get that sense of connection between plants, people, and environment, that aha moment that reminds them that all of these things are interconnected. So there's classes year-round of lifelong learning for horticulture, conservation, outdoor health and hobbies, lots of opportunities there, including therapeutic gardening is one of those. It's not just for seniors, it's for people that are in wheelchairs, it's for people that are recovering from traumatic experiences. And there's something there that we feel like we can actually cooperate with the base and veterans that have PTSD. This has been proven to have a measurable positive effect there. And then obviously our kids, most kids in El Paso have never gotten their hands dirty. So how to make an insect hotel, how to grow dinosaur food, which is giant kale, all the fun stuff. And then education. We will have our own volunteer program and with the standards that need to apply to that. So broken up for seedlings, sprouts, buds, annuals, perennials. So preschool, school-age preteen, teens, occasional adult volunteers, member adult volunteers with a training in water conservation, sustainability, and restoration. So they get some benefits by being a part of it, and they really get that firsthand experience under the guidance of arborists and horticulturists. There's all sorts of endless engagement opportunities. We can hardly wait to be there for this. Spring Bloom, big Mother's Day picnic, summertime, big Father's Day barbecue, fall harvest, Dia de los Muertos, which is coming up here shortly. And that on the left is the Dallas Botanic Garden. It's a bunch of pumpkins. If Dallas can do it, we can do it. And fall color, holiday glow, everything lit up at night. Now, actually, I've wanted to do this for about 25 years, and so I've worked on it with research in the background while I was head of the careers and did other things. It was just something that wouldn't let go of me. And technology changes. Now we have really these digital shows that are touring the United States with life-size tigers and huge butterflies and beetles and all sorts of the sound effects that go with it. So it's even easier to do now than it would have been a decade ago. Lots of promotional discount days: Military Mondays, Tuesday for Tots, Wednesday walkers, Therapeutic Thursdays, date night garden parties, doggy dress up pooch parade. And then we mentioned the little houses will have packages put together for to help people understand how to better use the garden for anything that they're trying to do there. Obviously, we're going to have a gift shop. Integrated marketing. This is pretty much a multi-marketer's dream. It's positive, it's healthy, it's beautiful, and lots of ongoing diverse income streams that have really tilted the typical model for a garden on its head. So conservation, research, education, engagement, enjoyment, last but not least, the things that are difficult to monetize. Absolutely proven that when you're in nature, your blood pressure goes down. Significant a place of family events where they say I love you, where they say I will, where they say I do, favorite family occasions, and so really cherish moments. We are a botanic garden. We will be an urban wildlife habitat, a water harvesting facility, an outdoor classroom, a living laboratory, and a cherished experience. You can see how we've progressed in the last few years. We are 501c3 with the board, Catherine Brennan, Sue Wu, Sharon Robinette, myself. And so we've finished phase one, geotech, traffic study, landscape schematic done, initial phasing. And so now we barrel in on construction documents, and we're really looking forward in the upcoming months to coordinating, for instance, the Cactus and Rock Club. There's some specialists there. They're going to work with us on curating the cactus garden. And so now this square inch, this square foot, what plant goes there? Do we grow it? How do we source it? Do we bring it in? And what is the timing on all of that? So we want to be recognized as a botanic garden with best practices. There's only about 600 in the U.S. Arboretum status, nationally accredited plant collection. There's only about 80 in the U.S. And then green building standards, sustainable landscape design, first visitor by 2026. We will be a destination garden. There is not another garden like this anywhere in the world. I've sort of held my breath on that for a couple of decades, and it's not there. And we think we'll receive 1 million visitors in the first 3 years of operation. So obviously it's economic development in a big way, and we're working with somebody to calculate that exact number for us. And it drives home conservation messages, but it's a multi-generational experience. It's vitally important. And garden tourism brings national attention. That makes us very happy. We have the 14-foot tall bird girl of the garden. Her cage skirt will be filled with seasonal flowers. And this is our board. And I'm really grateful to our project team who has just gotten us this far. It takes a huge team of people to be able to do this. And these are our donor relations folks, and Capital Campaign Committee is kicking off early next year. That's what you just saw in detail, and I appreciate you letting me be here. We look forward to being able to share this experience with you.
So we do have a few questions.
Okay.
Do you have any idea of how much it might cost for someone to go to the El Paso's Children's Garden?
It will be competitive with a zoo and with other features that are around here. You know, I mean, I will tell you, we calculated in pro forma some of that 4 years ago, and all of those have already changed. So it will be competitive with typical kind of, the museum, or it'll be affordable. It's our desire to have as many people here and to be able to take care of it as possible. So we'll make sure that we're competitive with other avenues out there.
One of the people in the chat wanted you to share the location again.
We're on the corner of Benton and Bosque Road. And if you take Westway Benton, exit 2 off the freeway, and just keep going, you'll cross Doniphan, you'll cross the Rio Grande, and there you are at Benton and Bosque Road. You look to the left, you'll see our land there. And so it's 1.6 miles from I-10. It's really impossible to beat from a wayfinding standpoint. And there are a lot of botanic gardens in the U.S. that have been around for 100 years. They're buried up by a city and make them really interesting to find. So we love that we're right off a major interstate like that we know permanently will be very easy to find.
And then another question was, when do you think this will be open to the public?
So this is phased construction. As with most big projects like this are. We begin with that big area you see in front with a curved driveway, sort of a colonnade of trees and parking area. And next is the butterfly house and the big center, okay? So the minute we have a parking area that's safe and we've got some plantings out there, we can begin education and we can begin some of the things there. And then it will take probably 3 to 5 years to build this. It's about a $50 million project. And so that will come from major donors, which we're already receiving. And we are really looking forward to, I want to invite each of you to send me an email saying that you support having this in your community. Just the volume of that speaks a lot to large donors, grantors. A lot of grants aren't available until you're operational with some programs operational. But our volunteer program will begin almost right away. And so there will be, you'll find that movie night, a lot of things like that will start opening right away, and different educational programs that are plant-based.
At this time, is there any more questions for Ms. Knight?
Hope you guys hung in there with me. Thank you very much for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you, Ms. Knight. We have many nice comments in the chat saying how easy it's going to be to find, how exciting this is, how they can't wait to visit. A lot of people are very
my
excited.
email there. Just send that comment to me in an email. You wouldn't believe the power that gives me when I'm talking to people and getting them to support this.
All right,
Joining
guys.
the community, that's what I need.
Yes, ma'am. Let me repost your email in the chat for people. And I will encourage you all to send her an email with your thoughts on her presentation. Let her know. And looks enchanting. I want to go. Oh, how nice. Yeah,
I love that you use
email.
that word.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Right. I hope to see you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Knight. Before I let everyone go, let me go ahead and close up the show. So I'm going to go ahead and share the sessions for next week. Before I let you go, I would like to thank Ms. Knight for her wonderful presentation today. I would like to thank the audience for coming and enjoying this session with us. Again, we invite you to send Ms. Knight an email about your thoughts about today's sessions. And if you're watching this online, her email was on her presentation at the beginning of the presentation. You'll be able to copy it down and send her an email then. So next week, we will be going over, from Happy Math Hour, we'll be going over Math 1314, Finding Zeros of Polynomial Functions. For Math 1324, we'll be going over Simple and Compound Interest Annuities. And then for the Student Success topics at 1 p.m., we'll be going over the STEM Student Resource page. Thank you again, and I hope to hear you again soon from Happy Math Hour and Student Success topic.
Thank you.